Nolan Turner, he's made a few of the biggest plays literally in Clemson history, and he's a guy that almost didn't happen.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy kind of as I look back on it. Obviously, throughout my high school career, didn't have really any scholarship offers, and I came up here to camp as a sophomore in high school. Went to summer camp, got to spend a lot of time with Coach Swinney and compete in camp, and he offered me a spot to come be a preferred walk-on here. And being from Alabama, had a preferred walk-on spot there as well, and didn't have any real offers. But being an Alabama fan growing up, and Dad played there, and growing up in Birmingham, that was kind of what I wanted to do.
Everybody talks about the relationship that I had with his father. His dad, Kevin Turner, was one of my teammates and one of my heroes. I mean, just a great friend. And KT was I think he was a second-round draft pick. He played 8 or 9 years in the NFL. Was a great player. And then I came to Clemson, and very few people remember this, but when I got the interim job, I brought Kevin to Clemson, and they kind of helped me finish out that season as a kind of a GA guy, if you will, and was trying to get him into coaching, but it just wasn't the right timing for him in his life.
Yeah, I think anytime you're around teammates and you play together, you go through a lot of tough days, tough practices. You see each other in a different lens, and so I think that brings people together. Just like sports in general. I mean, anytime you do something for a long time with somebody, have a lot of adversity, and 5 years of playing football together, those bonds grow tight. So they've been very close friends and teammates, and then that kind of continued on as Coach Swinney got into coaching, and always kind of see them keep in touch throughout the years.
Fast forward a few years later, he gets diagnosed with ALS. And just watching how that disease affected him was just traumatic for everybody who knew KT. KT was Hollywood handsome, bigger than life, and watching what that disease did to him was really, really hard. And then watching his family, have to deal with that. KT and I had a lot of conversations over the years. He'd bring the kids to camp all the time, and it's just crazy how God works things out. It really is. And honestly, we really weren't recruiting DBs that year. And then we come back from that first national championship game after the game, and all of a sudden we have Mackenzie Alexander, J-Ron Curse, TJ Green, and Travis Blanks decide that, hey, they're gonna try to go pro. So all of a sudden we're in the DB business, and we're just trying to find another safety. And I had at one time had told KT, for sure if Nolan wanted to walk on, he could. And it was just on my spirit. I was like, I need to go back and watch this tape. And so I sat down and I watched all of Nolan's tape. And then I was like, I was like, okay, I need to get an unbiased opinion here. And so I'll never forget it. I took it down to Brent. And because I said, Brent, I got a guy I want you to look at. I want you to tell me what you think. So, Brent watches it and he's like, I love this guy. I love this guy. Where's this guy? Who is this? Where's he at? I love him. And I went, that's all I needed to hear. One of the coolest moments for me ever was calling KT. And Raymond, KT's dad, Nolan's granddad, because KT couldn't talk. He just communicated with his eyes. But Raymond, they videoed me, had me on speaker and videoed me telling KT that I was going to fly in and offer Nolan a scholarship.
Nolan doesn't know anything about this, and I want you to hear it first. I've got a full scholarship for him. That kid has got something special to him. He can play. Is he still smiling, Raymond?
He is smiling and saying that's so awesome, and he's so happy. I wish you could see him.
Yeah, it's pretty special. During that time he was speaking through like a monitor, and so he couldn't really talk, but you could just see it in his emotions, just in his body language, and just obviously that was late in his life. He had ended up passing away 2 months later, and so kind of just being able to see that joy, that he had, and just kind of knowing where I was going, being with somebody that he trusted, who he had a close relationship with. I think obviously that meant a lot to him, and so that was pretty cool for me just to see the joy and the impact that had on him during that time.
And then, you know, as fate would have it, Nolan comes in that fall of 16, and we win the national championship against Alabama.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. You know, obviously growing up a Alabama fan and going to a bunch of the games, and you know, year one playing them in the national championship was my redshirt year. But it was at that point, you know, I'm locked in. I was, you know, part of the team. Our focus was on one thing, and that was winning that game, winning the national championship, and you know, all the work that you put in to get to those moments and those games. I mean, at that point, I really wasn't worried about Alabama. I was worried about Clemson, and you know, what we had our mindset on.
And you shared so many of those special moments with your dad. What do you think your dad would think now after your playing career and what you've become as a coach?
Yeah, I think he'd be proud, you know, just of just all the work. 'Cause I think, you know, from his perspective, he played a lot of football. He knows all what, you know, goes into it, and I think he'd just be proud of, you know, the stick-to-itness, the dedication, just the grind, the day-to-day grind that a football season takes, and, you know, doing that for 6 years in college and then a brief stint in the NFL, and you know, being, you know, fortunate enough to come back and do it on the coaching side now. I think he'd be proud of that, and you know, kind of where I'm at now.
And again, Nolan made, you know, some of the biggest plays that we've ever made, that were made in the biggest stage, you know, from the Notre Dame game to the Ohio State game. He made a lot of huge plays for us. He was a great player. And then to play a couple of years in the NFL, really he could have kept playing, but he really wanted to coach. He had always wanted to coach. And he truly is one of the smartest players that we've ever had here.
Nolan, what do you think are the biggest qualities that you bring to the safeties, or what do you try to impart on them that you obviously lived through that you can now pass down to them?
You know, I think the two biggest things, just experience and wisdom. You know, obviously I was here for 6 years, was a part of a lot of big games, a part of a lot of great teams, and I think just showing those guys each and every day what it looks like, what it takes from a practice standpoint, from a preparation standpoint, from a mental standpoint, to be successful at this level. And you know, it's not easy, and there's a lot of days where, especially like going through camp right now, where you just, you know, feel like you got nothing left. You don't want to really be there that day. It's, you know, practice is stacking up, and just showing those guys, you know, what it looks like and just what it takes to compete and win at the highest level. And I think that's kind of what I've been focusing on our guys with.
Nolan is going to be a rock star football coach. There's no doubt he's got an incredibly bright future. We're really fortunate to have him to be, you know, an assistant DB coach for us now. And it's been really cool, you know, having him back. And you know, every time I look at him, I see KT, because he looks so much like his dad. And just really proud of Nolan and the man he's become and the coach that he's growing into.